Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brendan Ecker Influence. It's April Fool's Day, April 1st, 2026. So we'll see what tricks all of the politicians and all of the lobbyists, all of the financiers and the influencers. Let's see how much they're going to mislead us today, right? So we're going to look into the news, we're going to look into the markets, and let's check everything out. Big news from Trump. Lots of big news today. Hold on, let me just get this going here. I just recapture the screen. Alrighty, there we go. So, big statement from Donald Trump today. This is just made a few hours ago. Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, just has asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. We will consider when the Hormuz Strait is open, free, and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or, as they say, back to the Stone Ages. President DJT. So, looking at that tweet, we know that he's not messing around. Trump is in it to win it, and he's doubling down on the war. He's not planning on getting us out of the Iran war. At the end of the day, though, he also made a statement that he wants to get out in 2 weeks, as we can see from this article that we're going to be going over. Trump says U.S. could end war in 2 to 3 weeks. And again, that was his statement here.
Amounts of missile making
prices. Today they hit $4.
We have $4, yeah, and we have a country that's not going to be.
Again, this was yesterday that this was posted, but a big statement to say the
Americans
least.
are feeling the effects in the interim.
And they're also feeling a lot safer.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. I would say that within.
Well, we'll see, right?
2 weeks,
I don't know
maybe
how
2 weeks,
easily
maybe
that's
3.
going to happen.
We're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote, we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. Got a couple of nice
yeah, a lot of that
bridges
is
in mind.
double talk, though, right?
But if they come to the table,
And that's kind
that'll
of
be good.
based
But
on
it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've
his
set them
previous
back.
statements.
It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them.
So I see this as a strategic exit. That looks like exactly what Trump is doing. And so when we look over here at the geopolitical map, we see that there's unmanned system company Hugin attacked a Ukrainian-held basement in Ivan Pengila, and 2 Russian soldiers of the 64th Motor Rifle Brigade showing a flag to a drone. Unmanned systems company Hugin attacked Ukrainian soldier. Yep, and a lot of these stories are also new. These are breaking news. This is glint.trade. I like using this for news analysis and any kind of new information that's going on in the Middle East. You can see everything that's happening here, this entire war that's being fought. You wonder why the oil prices are what they are. This is why. And again, we're going to be looking at all of that. What was that? Oh, that was glint. So that's a big statement. That was the critical alerts notification that you just heard there on the screen. Israel Home Front Command, Malika. Interesting. So something's going on there. And a lot of information is going down. So what do you guys think about the markets today? What do you guys think about the Iran war? What are your thoughts on Israel? Lots of information is happening. Lots of information. So who knows? Lots of big news. But at the end of the day, we're going to look at these markets. We're going to analyze why the markets are doing what they're doing. Again, oil today is doing pretty average, I would say. Trump is keeping the balance where it needs to be, right? Ultimately, that is what he's controlling, and that's his job to control that, is to control that market. So ultimately, that's kind of what we're looking at. So when we look at the prices for energy here, sorry, I had to turn that off because it just was so annoying. It kept dinging. But we're looking at the markets. We're looking at the energy markets. That's what we're going to be checking out here. I had all of this set up. Don't you love live streams? Waiting for everything to load. Okay, there we go. Crude oil futures, $98.89. And then the Brent last day financial futures at $101.15, with the micro WTI crude futures down at $98.88 since yesterday. And then the WTI Houston, the Argus versus the WTI trade month futures, $4.68. So we look at all of these different markets and we see that there are big things happening. Okay, it's not to take lightly all of the biggest headlines here. The WT Insights by PVM tells us that the limited room to maneuver for OPEC is really decreasing. The next OPEC meeting, at which the group's output strategy will be discussed, falls during the long Easter weekend. Amid the conflict in the Middle East and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial choke point for oil transportation, the unusual monthly gathering will take place under genuinely unprecedented circumstances. Yet the elbow room within which the producer group can operate appears rather constrained. It is fair to say that OPEC played it safe by the end of February when it decided to increase output by a mere 204,000 BPD from April, just a day after the United States and Israel launched their joint offensive against Iran. This was a responsible and justified decision, as both the impact and the duration of the military operation were far from clear. 1 month on, the damage is becoming increasingly apparent, as is the fact that the global oil supply is highly vulnerable to the narrow waterway. So what it keeps dinging there? That is crazy. It's so annoying. What is that? So weird. I don't like that sound. Never heard that sound before. I don't know. Well, anyways, we'll just look at the markets. We'll just ignore that, I guess. So that's pretty much, we'll look at that article, and then we're just going to move on to this one because I got distracted. So Coinbase is we're looking at crypto. The prices of Bitcoin are up today, 2.35% at $68,546. Ethereum's at $2,127. XRP's at $1.35. And really the main coins like Solana, $83.34. You have Cardano still hanging down at 24 cents. And all of these tokens are definitely going to be affected by this clarity that we're looking for. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see if a global crisis comes out of all of this Iran war. When we're looking at all of these markets, kind of seeing where the markets are turning, then we are able to understand what the future might hold. XLM has a price right now of 17 cents, and I don't know what that is. That's crazy. What is that? I don't know what that is. I gotta see what that is. That's so strange. Really weird. Anyways, that is just very weird. I don't know what that noise is, but it's extremely annoying. So anyways, I keep losing my spot because it's definitely distracting. Oh, there it is. I thought I etched this out. There we go. There we go. Sorry. Now we won't hear that annoying dinging. That's kind of what I was trying to fix there. Just lost my spot. But anyways, the world markets rocket higher on optimism as the Iran war could end soon. Yes, that's kind of what we've been talking about as I'm getting back on track here and regathering where we were at because we totally lost our spot. We're looking at all of the different articles really affecting the oil markets and the energy markets, essentially. Trump says the U.S. could end the Iran war in 2 to 3 weeks. And, yeah, I mean, big statements. He put out his Truth Social tweet just not too long ago. And when we're looking at all of that, we see that there's just a lot of major developments happening all at once. But that's how things work when we're looking at a globalist order, right? When we're looking at a new world order, whatever you want to call it, this is what the markets are basically pointing to. This is where we're at. This is where we're going. So, at the end of the day, Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. I don't consider this to be true. We will consider that the Hormuz Strait is open, free, and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back into the Stone Ages, President DJT. Again, we read that a little bit ago, but we had to get back on track here, kind of look at what was going on. We were looking a bit at this article, connecting all of the events that are happening in this insane Iran war to the oil markets right now. Okay, so however, it is not in a position to do so as it is illustrated. God, everything is just being so glitchy today. As illustrated in the accompanying chart. First, its spare capacity defined by the U.S. Energy Information Administration as the maximum amount of crude oil a country or group can bring online within 30 days and sustain for at least 90 days without requiring significant new infrastructure or investment is declining. This reduction is not by choice, as it was in 2025 when OPEC opted to unwind voluntary cuts. Rather, it is driven by necessity. This constraint leads to a second issue. Almost all of the cartel's spare capacity is located around the Persian Gulf, and the Strait of Hormuz currently closed, it is effectively stranded. Additionally, as reflected in the EIA's latest 700,000 BPD downward revision, the supply cushion for QT and Q3 forced production shut-ins in the region further hinder any attempts to bring additional barrels to the market. This leaves the group with little choice but to roll over output levels until conditions in this pivotal producing region improve significantly. That's very big. The market also anticipates this a sentiment reliably gauged by the OPEC watch tool from CME Group. Snapshot taken on March 18th places the probability of unchanged output at close to 90%, based on volatility measures and option pricing. It is important to emphasize that unchanged quotas do not equate to production levels, and the likelihood of actual output falling below assigned ceilings in the coming months is elevated. The geopolitical backdrop could shift rapidly, yet high implied volatility points to nervous trading conditions ahead. In these unpredictable times, the high probability of unchanged output signaled the OPEC watch suggests that dip may present more attractive buying opportunities than rallies do for selling, unless the Strait of Hormuz fully reopens and regional oil production normalizes. Given the damage already inflicted on producers, however, such a recovery will likely take months. So I thought that was a pretty big statement to kind of bring up today. Again, that was March 26th. That was a few days ago. But here on April Fool's Day, with all of the false statements that we just may be getting, you have to consider it's April Fool's Day. You might be just getting scammed on everything today, right? So again, when we're looking back into the crypto markets, we covered that a little bit. The markets are looking pretty normal right now, and we're waiting on the Clarity Act. That's the news for crypto. If you're into crypto, if you're interested in crypto, that's the big news. Everything comes down to the Clarity Act and whether or not this gets passed. And right now, Coinbase and Brian Armstrong have been standing in the way of it for stablecoin yield. But on the flip side of that, Ripple will officially receive the approval to become a national trust bank tomorrow, April 1st. So, who knows? But on March 2nd, 2026, the Office of Comptroller of Currency, the OCC, finalized amendments to its existing rule on national bank chartering to affirm the authority of national trust banks to engage non-fiduciary activities, including certain custody and safekeeping activities. The final rule adopts the revisions contained in the OCC's Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, issued on January 12, 2026, without change. The revised regulation, the amended rule, takes effect April 1st, 2026. So when we're looking at all of these stories, it's pretty huge. The ETF flows are moving. U.S. spot crypto ETFs flows data. This is the update. Bitcoin ETFs are up 1,733, $117.63 million. Ethereum ETFs, 14,865 with $31.17 million. And then you have XRP, Solana, Chainlink, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and you have DOT, you have HBAR, AVAX, and flows. These were zero. Total U.S. spot crypto ETFs inflow equals 148.8 million. U.S. Bitcoin ETF bought 1,733 Bitcoin worth, again, and we went over those numbers just now. So the U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs bought 4 day of mined Bitcoin supply in a single day. Bitcoin's moving. Crypto's moving. Crypto's the future, and this is really what the future has in store. Ultimately, it's a big battle between Bitcoin and XRP right now. It's a big battle between what Bitcoin perceives to be as XRP becoming the central bank digital currency, and then XRP sees Bitcoin as an outdated technology where it really doesn't serve crypto because it has slow transactions, a little bit more outdated, and it is actually, if you really do the research, it is way more centralized, in my opinion. I hear more people getting their Bitcoin stolen than XRP, and it's just also, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Everybody talks about Bitcoin, but do we even know this guy, Satoshi Nakamoto? Find it kind of weird, right? Proud that Coinbase Insto is serving as the custodian for this innovative ETF, increasing access to crypto markets for everybody. Congratulations to BlackRock's team. So BlackRock, again, sweeping up. And what's that? Isn't that interesting? We have a connection to BlackRock and Coinbase, the same company that's getting in the way of the Clarity Act, which would basically allow these prices to reach their level playing field. So they say, right? And so when we understand markets, we understand that words and manipulation is kind of a normal part of the game. So now we're going to be moving into real estate, because as a real estate agent, I'm going to always tell you a little bit about real estate when I can. Weekly mortgage refinance demand is down more than 40% in the past month. This is by Diana Olick from CNBC. Nice featured story here. The key points are that mortgage rates last week rose to the highest levels since August. Refinance demand dropped 17% for the week, and mortgage demand from buyers is declining close to where it was 1 year ago. Mortgage rates Mortgage rates moved even higher again last week as the war with Iran continues to stoke fear of inflation. As a result, total mortgage application volume fell again, down 10.4% from the previous week, according to Mortgage Bankers Association's seasonally adjusted index. The average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage with conforming loan balances is $832,750 or less, increased to 6.57% from 6.43%, with points remaining unchanged at 0.65, including the origination fee or the loans with a 20% down payment. So what does this mean? So what does all these numbers mean? What does all this rhetoric mean? Well, basically it means you're going to have a lot of money. The interest rates are going up, and the loan balances are going to go up. All of these things are going to be going up. Prices are going to be going up. Oil is going to be become constricted. We may see $200 oil prices depending on how long we stay in the Strait of Hormuz and, enduring the missiles of Iran and all of these things. And again, all of the other after effects of this, the economic and the psychological and the social. All of these areas matter when it comes to the markets, when it comes to real estate especially. And it depends on your knowledge, how much equity you got, what's your credit score like. Last time I checked, everybody was in total debt, in credit card debt in the United States today. So it's not looking good. We're going to have a more entrepreneurial economy. We're going to have a more investing economy, an economy that believes in crypto and, those kind of ideas, big ideas when it comes to finance. Applications to refinance a home loan, which are most sensitive to weekly interest rate moves, dropped 17% for the week and were 33% higher than the same week 1 year ago. Earlier this year, when rates were lower, refinance demand was more than twice that it was the year before. The 30-year mortgage rate, now at 6.57%, reached its highest level since last August and is up half a percentage point from just a month ago, said Mike Frantantoni, MBA's chief economist, in a release. Refinance application volumes declined sharply again last week and are down more than 40% compared to last month. Wow. Yeah, that's not good. Not good for home buyers, not good for new homeowners. Applications for a mortgage to purchase a home dropped 3% for the week and were just 1% higher than the same week 1 year ago. The spring housing market, traditionally the busiest of the year, is well underway. While it was forecast to be stronger than last year's, the war is weighing out affordability and stoking fears over the direction of the overall economy. Purchase applications for FHA and VA loans continue to hold up better than those for conventional buyers. However, the shots for the jump in rates and the increase in overall economic uncertainty are likely having an impact on buyer confidence, said Frantantoni. God, these names, I just butcher them. Mortgage rates come down pretty much sharply to start this week, according to a separate measure from the Mortgage Daily News, as markets digested a potential de-escalation in the Iran war. Yeah, for now. I don't see that lasting. This is, doublespeak. This is what Trump's doing. It's a strategic de-escalation. But overall, we may just end up staying in that Strait of Hormuz. We're going to be stuck. Iran is not looking to make any real concessions. And all they've really said is that the demands have to be met and basically that they're not going to be willing to take down their nuclear program, which is Trump's objective and the Trump administration's objective here is to basically disengage Iran's ability to enrich uranium. And with that being said, that impacts Israel, that impacts everybody really on the planet, because if Iran does not have the ability to enrich uranium, then essentially it leaves Iran open for attacks by Israel. And again, Israel's just going to bomb them and bomb them and bomb them. And then the United States is probably going to just join in because we do whatever the state of Israel says, right? So again, all of this does connect, though, because it's a geoeconomic, way that it ties everything together in real estate, because this entire oil market, this entire crash that we may potentially be going into, the raised gas prices, the battle of the petrodollar, all of this stuff is going to impact, of course, real estate. Mortgage rates came down. Okay, we read that already. This market has best 2 days of improvement since the war began, but the caveat is that the larger movements are often seen after rates hit long-term highs, wrote Matthew Graham, Chief Operating Officer at Mortgage News Daily. So yeah, that's pretty huge. And then again, another headline was the spring housing market is on, but mortgage rates just shot higher. And here's what to know. Mortgage rates are now at the highest level since September 2025, rising sharply to 6.53% for a week ending on March 14th. And again, this was a few weeks ago, but we're just looking back into time so we can, understand kind of how these stories connect today. Home prices nationally are basically flat from a year ago. So what do you guys think? I mean, not great. Again, Ryan Lundquist, if home prices go down, that could be a painful thing for owners. I hear that sentiment quite a bit. Let's remember it's painful for people who can't currently afford the market, though. There's no such thing as a housing market without pain. It's always good or bad for someone. Absolutely. And as a real estate agent, I can absolutely get behind that because, you have to understand is even though the housing prices are high, consider the fact that if you were a real estate investor, you're going to be making more money. And that's a good thing. You want to know why it's also a good thing that the prices go up in housing? It keeps, the poorer demographics out. When I say poor, I don't mean like income poor. I mean, the not so desirable kind of neighbor. And however you perceive that sentence, that's kind of how, how this works. So when we're looking at all these different things and how these markets, kind of connect and how everything kind of correlates to the future, this is kind of how. So when you're looking at all these prices, we're looking at the X comments. People act like housing market is different than the stock market or the commodities market. It's not. When you buy at the very top of the cycle and you can't hold long term, you lose money. People who bought in the last 5 years were essentially exit liquidity for those who bought in the 10 to 20 year prior. You jumped on the bandwagon because you saw big green candles. That's your mistake. Now you get to eat the losses. Buyers are not going to finance the bad investment decisions people made in the last 5 years. Yeah, 100%. And Ryan agreed with that, coming back at him with, and there's no such thing as winning every single month or year in housing in terms of gaining value. Sometimes people fixate on their online estimated value also, and at some point you just have to stop paying attention to that. So what do you guys think about the real estate markets? What do you guys think about all of that? Ultimately, I think it's going to be kind of a disaster. So if you're looking to grow your business with me, hopefully you guys like this market update. If you're looking to grow your business with artificial intelligence, when I say that, it sounds so scary to people now, but you do need this as a business owner. You need all of these things, right? You need to have a speed to lead system. You need to have AI summaries of exactly who you're talking to. You got to get information on them. Kanban pipelines. We built this at Gold Shark Media AI. This is our software for you, for an automated business, all in one system. And it has some pretty cool features because it has, has ROI calculators. It has all of this cool stuff. It has calendars, trackers, full integrations. You're able to send emails. You're able to white label the software as well. Follow-up tasks, review capture. That's important. You got to have 5-star reviews in your business. And then again, ROI reporting, lead resurrection, admin controls. So that's all going to be handled. Missed lead alerts. And we also have a trust system. We actually have a way better version of this landing page. We've updated a lot of stuff in the software. So again, as a business owner, it's nice to have things automated. And, just from my experience, I've used a lot of different CRMs. I like this because it's more of a system than a CRM. It's more of a lead machine. If you want to book a demo, feel free to. You can also book a demo or hop on a sales call. We'll talk about what you're interested in doing. But this is kind of our plans and pricing, kind of what we're offering, right? We have the starter plan for $79 a month. It's unlimited leads in your 8-stage pipeline, manual lead entry plus CSV. And guys, we have a way more features than I'm actually showing you on the screen right now. Way more. Okay, but this is just the basics. This is the basics. This isn't even this is like our oldest version of this website. It's not even a website. It's total software. It's total app. Okay, so you're gonna go right in. You log in, and you'll be right into the system. Okay, when you sign up, you sign into Pro, you sign up for the plan, and you'll be pretty much good to go. You'll pay for that plan, and you'll be able to do it. So sign up, and you'll be on your way. And then if you want to become a real estate agent, be sure to sign up with passreusa.com. And again, the reason I made this as a real estate agent is because I think people need to make more money. I think people are struggling to, survive in this economy. And the only way that you're really going to survive in an economy like this, in recessions like this, is you got to be able to sell things. You got to be able to sell something. And, especially in a time where AI is, replacing everybody, doesn't hurt to make fat commissions in real estate. Let me tell you, 1,300 plus real estate practice questions I made all by myself. I sourced them from state material, national textbooks, everything I used in my real estate class, everything I had to use for my state exam, a lot of the same study material. It's based on a 40-hour course. That's what this really is. It's relevant for all 50 states. It's like $100. Keep it forever. It's a pretty good deal. I haven't even changed this discount thing since January because people like this price. I'm not going to change it, right? I'm just not going to do it. You got 200 vocabulary terms with definitions here on PassREUSA.com. You got to add that USA.com because if you just pass in PassRE, it goes to a different software company that's not us. Interactive videos, 24/7 customer support, online community to engage and share your thoughts. That's kind of still in beta. A lot of these are in beta, but this is it's still very powerful. We do have some pretty happy clients that we have worked with. Got a few realtors that we've gotten through, right? And they're liking it. They liked it, and it helped them pass. That means a lot to me. That's really all I care about. I thought the test was hard when I had to take the real estate exam myself, and I'm glad I passed it. But if I wouldn't have had, the exact training that I made for myself, basically, I made like my own study guides, and I basically used these. And so I ended up passing because of it. So again, add it to your cart, Pass RE, the National Real Estate Licensing Study Guide and Exam Prep. Again, it's got 1,300 plus practice questions, chapter ebooks, like 14 chapters, all organized in the exact same structure that you'll learn it in your 40-hour course. It's amazing stuff. Okay, and with that being said, that's pretty much all I have. What do you guys think about the markets? And if you like this episode, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and be sure to support the show. Be sure to add a super chat. Add your comments. What do you think about the markets? What do you think about the Iran war? And so with that being said, I have nothing else. Stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay wealthy. You have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. And catch me tonight, 7 p.m., maybe 8 p.m. Might be a little late because I need some sleep. I haven't slept. And catch it at Acker Geopolitics. And we'll be covering the news. We'll be covering the hottest stories on Axe, all the war news, everything. We're going to cover it all. So I'll see you there. Have a nice day and stay